Ayo, back at it again with another video. Thank you all for watching. I greatly appreciate it. So this video we'll be talking about high-speed rail. This is part 7 in the high-speed rail series here on the channel, and this is talking about a high-speed rail along the I-20 Interstate Expressway connecting Dallas in Atlanta, and then you can also connect I-20 to I-10 here in Western Texas. I recently talked about that. So part 7 was I-20. Part 6 was I-70 from Utah across the country to Indianapolis. This is a transcontinental route connecting the West, Midwest. This is I-20 would be another route that would connect, southwest over here. It would connect to I-10 going to California. But then you would also connect Texas to the southeast part of the country, Gulf Coast as well, Shreveport as well. So part 6 was I-70. Part 5 was a front range high-speed rail, I-25. You can also connect that down to El Paso, and El Paso, I think El Paso's on I-10. You can connect the front range to El Paso and then connect that to Tucson, Phoenix, LA. That was part 4, I-10 high-speed rail. Part 3 was I-15, SoCal to Salt Lake. Part 2 was talking about California, and part 1 was talking about Cascadia high-speed rail from Seattle. Connect that down to Sacramento in Northern California. So that was part 1. California was part 2. I-15 was part 3. I-10 part 4. I-25 part 5. I-70 part 6. And now talking about I-20 in part 7. So let's kind of figure out, where it starts. So it starts down here, Western Texas, where I-20 meets I-10. So we're going to zoom in. I'm going to measure distance, figure out roughly how much distance it is up to Odessa, Midland, then to Abilene, and then to Fort Worth, Arlington, Dallas. Got a lot of people in that. Keep going. And then hit Shreveport in Louisiana. That's not what I wanted to click. Nope. Did not mean to click on Monroe. Monroe, Vicksburg, onto Jackson. Keep going. Up to Tuscaloosa. Up to Birmingham, and then on to Atlanta, which is where we would stop. So roughly 1,200 miles, give or take. Obviously, some of my measurements are not on the road exactly, but you're looking at about 1,200 mile stretch of high-speed rail. So that's quite a considerable distance. And then ultimately we talked about how I-10 goes from San Antonio to SoCal. So basically, if you really wanted to, if both routes were implemented, you can go from Atlanta to Dallas to El Paso to Phoenix to Los Angeles. You can basically go from Los Angeles to Atlanta along those 2 high-speed rail lines, if they were ever implemented. But yeah, let's look at metro regions. So connecting Dallas-Fort Worth at we're going to round up to about 8 million. You can also connect that to the Texas Triangle, Houston, you got the Woodlands, Pasadena, 7 million. You can connect that as well. I know that you can also, so basically we'll be connecting the 4th largest metro area with the 8th largest. You can also connect that to Houston as well, and then on to Phoenix along the I-10, and then on to California. But also, You can also connect to San Antonio, New Braunfels, looking at a handful of Austin as well. So you're looking at probably 25 million people in the Texas Triangle, and then you connect that with Atlanta, which is another, what did it say, 6 million. So roughly, in this area, connected with Atlanta, looking at maybe 30 million people. That's a considerable amount of people. And then if you connect that to I-10, have that high-speed rail, you can then connect that on to Phoenix with another 5 million, and then Los Angeles, which is another 15 million. So if you go Atlanta to Los Angeles along those two high-speed rail lines, you can connect 50 million, 60 million people, depending on the route you take. But yeah, I think I-20 is a really good one to have as a high-speed rail. Go through Dallas, connect it to Atlanta, and then on to southwestern parts of the country along the I-10 corridor, and then on to Arizona and California. So this is one of these transcontinental routes that I kind of was touching on. I-20 is one. You would have that go along kind of like the southwest part of the country, Gulf Coast part of the country. I-70 is more in the middle of the country. You go from Utah to Indianapolis on to Baltimore. So there, that you would have an LA to Atlanta route along I-10 and then I-20. And then you would have a middle transcontinental route, LA, Vegas, up to Salt Lake, up to Denver, up to Kansas City, St. Louis, Indy, and then maybe have another route, either Seattle to Spokane, or figure out how to work a Vancouver to Winnipeg high-speed rail, and then come back down to Minneapolis and Chicago. So that is a really good possibility in I-20 high-speed rail. Cover a lot of ground, but you would connect a lot of people. So with that being said, that is the end of the video. Thank you all for watching. I greatly appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one. Deuces.